to the top of my lungs like my mama make it. Gotta speak it to existence, and you gotta have patience. Just stay in your lane and anybody hating it. Love don't love nobody, so don't worry about dating. Just it comes so easy, I got it. Hey, I got it. I BG on. Yeah, we got it. We got it.
Everybody gets something out of this.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come with us for our first episode. And today we're going to touch topics on how we can inspire the young generation. So in your presentation, I overheard you talking about how it was growing up and how you loved being in arts and media. And I just want to ask, growing up, did you always know that you wanted to be involved in arts and media?
Yes. So her question to me was whether or not I always knew that I wanted to be involved in arts and media. And I think in some ways, yes. And I say that because I would read by the light of the street lights outside our bedroom window after everybody quieted down enough so as not to disturb my parents. And that was at night. But during the day, I would read aloud. I read everything aloud. It helped me, I think, with the comprehension of what it was. And for some reason, I just liked reading things aloud. And it didn't matter what it was, whether it was a book or a box of cereal or what. I'm reading what is before me. So yes, I think there was always some inkling of something there.
So with your transition from New York to North Carolina in the 70s, what was it like and what were the cultural shocks that you experienced?
It was, Wilmington was a very different Wilmington, as you can imagine, in the 1970s. And even though we're talking the late 70s, my grandmothers, one lived on 10th Street, 10th and Worcester, and another lived on like 6th and Queen. And these were still dirt roads at that time. Now, can you imagine being that close to the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge and, being on a dirt road? So there was that difference, the geographical distance. While we got Mayfair and all the things that are going on, most of our activities were concentrated in town, between, I'd say, 5th Street and 17th Street. So that was what we considered in town. And to some extent, some people still do. So there was that geographical piece. And now, remember, I'm a teenager at this time, so I've already started using mass transit in New York City. I'm used to going to museums and libraries and things on my own, and then to come to a place where I gotta have a ride everywhere, I can't just walk to a corner store, it was different. And then some of the people that I met were not very nice because I was the girl that talked funny and that walked funny and was stuck up. When it wasn't, that was who I was, but I was, I guess, challenging the primacy of those who they weren't aware. Many of them, we would later find out, were cousins or have become dear friends, but I was, outside the norm for sure. So those were some of the bigger differences for me.
What was your first job in media and how did it prepare you for your journey at other media outlets?
So my first job in media was for a small public access channel called Vashtia's Journal in Durham. And it was pretty much a podcast, kind of like what you're trying to establish. And so I was just thankful for the exposure, to learn what you do behind the camera and all. But I quickly realized that radio was my passion. And so when I moved back to Wilmington in 1989, I had 2 small children at the time. I was working at Corning in human resources. It was a temporary job, and I saw an ad for a business manager for a radio station that was just starting. And so I went and responded. And so I started in radio on the business end. So I was the business manager, and my mentor, Don Ansel was his name, he bought Wave Radio. And he said, listen to those pipes. So there was one day, someone who did a Saturday morning show called Swap Shop, where you buy, sell, and trade on the air, wasn't able to come in for whatever reason. I don't know whether, there was some accident or something. So he calls me up and asks me whether or not I would come in and do Swap Shop. And that's when I started in radio here, on radio, because I was already in the business office, but having an on-air presence. And I remember my children, who were very small at the time, I would always leave the radio on for them when because Swap Shop was, Saturday mornings, like 7 to 9. And I would always leave the radio on. And they somehow called me one day and asked, I said, good morning and welcome to Swap Shop, where we buy, sell, and trade on the air. Ma, can you bring home a bicycle tie and a box of Fruit Loops? They've called me on the air. You give out the number over and over again. So, yeah, that was my first foray into radio.
Okay, so with your experience in media, how do you transition into the arts, and how did the two passions connect for you?
That's a great question. I had always been, even in my radio days, very active in the arts here. I founded the North Carolina Black Film Festival, which is an offshoot of the Black Arts Alliance that was founded at my kitchen table. And so I was on Cameron Art Museum's board of directors when we moved into the new facility, and then rolled off. And in fact, came off the board for good once I started the Arts Council, because I didn't want there to be a conflict of interest in me serving one organization, being on the board of one single organization. So they've always been interwoven.
How has your background in broadcast journalism influenced your approach in the art advocacy and the community?
That's a great question. You got what else you got over there? So as a journalist, I've always strived to be objective and distill facts down to the essence of what they are. And so I think that that's helped in my advocacy work, because I have always had a bipartisan approach to whatever the issue is, whether it's funding for the arts or requiring arts credits before you can graduate from high school or something along those lines. Just always trying to get two sometimes warring factions to understand the essence of what it is we're looking for and what we're trying to do. So,
what drives you personally to keep pushing forward in such a demanding career?
I don't know. I think I've always been driven. Some people talk about, it's always been my dream to. Well, I don't have dreams. I have to-do lists. I don't sit there and think, I got, I wish one day this could happen. No. If I want something bad enough, it's on a to-do list, period. That's just the way I look at life.
How important is representation of women and women in color in art community for you and the work that you do?
I think it's very important. And in fact, that's why I founded the Black Arts Alliance, because we did not see opportunities for people of color, of any color, to engage, other colors, to engage in local theater and some of the other experiences. I mean, you can even now go to places and still see all white audiences, which means that there's not been some exposure. So that's why it was so important for me to do things like, I'm one of the founding instructors at the Dream Center for Arts Education, and they honored me for the 25th year a couple years ago, because you can't expect that people are just gonna all of a sudden grow up and be artists if they've not been exposed to something. So exposure to these experiences has always been very, very important to me.
Can you tell us about some of the challenges you faced when founding the Arts Council and how you overcome them?
One of the biggest challenge is getting local government to understand the role of the arts as an economic driver in communities. People say, and I even have a really good friend who was an elected official and who actually sat on the steering committee to form the Arts Council. And so when we went to his governing body, he said, I don't do plays. Well, that's your choice to not do plays, but it is not your choice to not have an understanding of what the arts can do to generate or stimulate your economy. The arts in New Hanover County is a $75 million industry. We employ the equivalent of 1,285 workers, and pay millions in taxes because we are still, we go get things printed. We've got electricians, we employ people. So we are an economic generator. And so you notice I didn't say, as you hear a lot of arts organizations say, well, we enhance the quality of life. Well, sure, that's a byproduct of it, but you have to speak truth to power, and they understand money. So that's why our mission was to support artists, arts organizations, and audiences through innovative partnerships that develop jobs, stimulate commerce, and showcase the region as an arts destination. That's why we speak that language.
So how do you see the roles of arts and culture in shaping the identity of Wilmington and the surrounding areas?
We are a mecca here in southeastern North Carolina. One of the grants that I administer, and I didn't get into that because it's a little involved. But one of the things that we do, or we are grant makers, which means we provide funding to arts organizations and artists. And one of the grants that I administer for New Hanover, Pender, Brunswick, Columbus, and Bladen counties. But if we look even just at New Hanover County, we know based on research, and this is all based on research, that 1 out of every 3 people who comes to an event, an arts event in New Hanover County, is from out of the county. So if they come from out of the county, and depending upon what it is, so even if you look at like the Live Oak Pavilion, when people come to these concerts that let out 10, 11 o'clock at night, they're not going back home. They're staying in our hotels. They're going to the restaurants. They're getting Uber drivers. So it is really, it's all about the math is what it is. So we know that we are a hub for entertainment and arts here in southeastern North Carolina.
What has been the most rewarding moments in your career so far?
Wow, there have been so many. I'll tell you, so many. Oh, wow. That's a good question. Being able to, we became the first agency that the New Hanover Community Endowment allowed to subgrant. So they gave me, my agency, $200,000 to subgrant to local arts organizations. We just, we're actually preparing the release now to talk about or announce the first group of recipients. So that's certainly one. The fact that the county commission that I referenced earlier, where they're giving us like $10,000, which is no money when you're trying to run a nonprofit agency. The last grant we got from them was $100,000. So things like that. But even more importantly, and probably more heartfelt, are the moments like Banks Repetta, being able to celebrate this young man and all that he does, the work that's going on at Dreams and some of these. So I get rewarding experiences through every one of the organizations. I feel like a proud mama. I really do.
How do you balance the need for artistic freedom with the business side?
Oh, I think it's very important to be able to provide the seed money that allows people to flourish. So, for example, that grant that I administer for all these counties, so that's to provide professional development or supplies or something. We want to provide those grants to exceptional artists of all disciplines and at whatever level, but who show promise by funding a project that's pivotal. So we usually give $1,000 to those grant recipients. And some of the success stories are just, there was one author. I'll give you some examples of some of the grants that we provide. One author was doing a story, and her story required travel. So we paid for her travel to Greece. So that's what those grants do. They provide the seed money to help you take it to the next level.
So outside of your work, what are some passions or hobbies that help you recharge?
Scrabble. I'm a big Scrabble. I love Scrabble. I love interior design. I used to love sewing, except I can't stand the sound of the sewing machine much anymore. But yeah, those are my biggies, I would say. Interior design, playing Scrabble and word games. And and reading, though I've got to get out of the habit. We got to put these phones down, y'all. And myself included, we have to put these phones down and pick up a book. I miss turning the page. I miss that, smelling the paper. We've got to stay off these phones. And I knew that this was going to happen. I remember, I have 4 grandchildren. My oldest has just graduated from high school in June. And of my grandchildren, there was one of my middle granddaughter she was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and I was trying to get something on the phone. She came over, took the phone, and went and knew how to do it. Something I didn't know how to do. And I said, that's good, but is it? We have got to get back to something that is non-electronic all the time. I mean, it's just 24/7. It's just too much. Did I answer that question?
Yes. Who has been some of your biggest influences, both in your professional life and your personal development?
My parents, of course, both of whom are no longer with us. Don Ansel, the mentor who gave me my first job in radio. I consider him one. And just so many people who have just always been in my corner. Bertha Todd, who was the media center director here for many, many years. She's 95 years old now, and she was she chaired the 1898 Centennial Foundation. She has just always, she's like, I call her my other mother. So people like that. And then sometimes you don't know. People I don't even know sometimes come up and say something, and I don't know. I was in radio. You don't know people in radio, because it's a very anonymous kind of media. You're in a studio, and so you don't know what people look like, but they for the most part don't know what you look like. I remember one time we were doing a gas giveaway at a radio station, and this was when we were doing R&R in the morning. My co-host was Rod Cruz. He was at that time the program director of Coast. This was way before Big B and Sandra and those. And this elderly man came up to us at this gas giveaway, and he said, "I'm here to see Rhonda Bellamy." And I said, I'm Rhonda Bellamy. He said, Rhonda Bellamy's 10 feet tall. Because he had, just going on voice, he thought I was much larger than I was, much taller than I was. So that's, I think that's some of what I loved about radio as well, because it's very mysterious, and you just don't know who you're listening to. You don't know what they look like. I like that about it.
So what advice would you give to young artists or aspiring art leaders who want to make an impact in their community?
I would say you have to be in it to win it. If you love visual arts, go to galleries. If you love theater, go to plays and musicals. You've got to broaden your sense of what is out there. I can't tell you how many times people will come to me and say, well, this, and this is not happening, coming from that mind space. And I'm thinking, is it that it's not happening, or that you are not happening with it? Mm-hmm. You have to, before you say that something isn't, how do you know that? Maybe you are the one that is out of place and disconnected. So I would say that, do passionately what it is you like to do. If you love theater, go to theater. We got plenty of theater companies here. And then study as much as you can. Learn as much as you can about whatever discipline it is you're interested in. Now, even though I poo-pooed the use of electronics, I do like the fact that we have information at our fingertips. Never before have we had access to this much information at one time, and it's overwhelming is what it is. Mm-hmm. But if you find something that you're passionate about, learn as much as you can about that subject. And then maybe start a podcast.
Again, thank you for taking the time to sit here with me today. It was truly an inspiration to have you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison.
You're welcome.
I BG on. Yeah, we got it. You got it.